When it comes to leasing or buying a new car, there are many factors to consider. You may have asked yourself or be curious about the following two questions. First, what's the difference between leasing and buying? Second, what are the pros and cons of each option? I'm excited to share with you today in this video the benefits and drawbacks of leasing versus buying a car, so you can make a more informed and better decision for your needs. First off, thank you so much for tuning in to our Biesinger Fire Journey, where I, Jordan Biesinger, share my family's experiences pursuing financial freedom with tips and tricks to increase your financial literacy and financial health. If you find today's video helpful, please leave us a like, comment, and subscribe for more to come. So what's the difference between buying and leasing a car? The biggest difference between buying and leasing is that when you buy a car, you own it outright. You have the option to sell it, trade it in, or keep it as long as you want. When you lease a car, you're essentially renting it out from a dealership for a set period of time, usually 2 to 4 years. At the end of this lease term, you have the option to buy the car, return it to the dealership, or lease another one. Another difference is that when you buy a car, you're responsible for all repairs and maintenance. With a leased car, however, the dealership is typically responsible for any necessary repairs or maintenance. Another difference is that when you buy a car, you are spending a lump sum of cash or taking out a loan to pay for the car in full. When you lease, on the other hand, you're only responsible for paying a monthly fee to use the car. If you miss payments on a loan for the car you bought, the lender can repossess the car as well. However, if you buy the car in full, you won't have any payments and won't risk losing the car to repossession. Another key difference between buying and leasing a car is that when you buy a car, its value depreciates as soon as you drive it off the lot. When leasing a car, you're only responsible for the depreciation that occurs during the lease term. Car ownership is also a larger commitment to the vehicle, as it may be difficult to get out of a car loan. We, the Biesingers, definitely recommend buying a reliable used car with cash if at all possible. So when buying a car, it may break down shortly after, which may leave you stuck with the car until it's fixed or you find another source of transportation. Usually though, if you buy a reliable car, this won't happen. But on the other hand, if you lease a car and it breaks down, you can simply bring it back to the dealership and get a new one without having to worry about repairs. So a lease can be more flexible, as you may be able to return the vehicle or upgrade to a new one at the end of the lease term, as long as you buy with cash and do not have a loan on the car. Now let's talk about the pros and cons of leasing a car. Now, leasing a car has its pros and cons, like everything else in life. Here are a few of the things to consider if you're thinking of leasing a car. With pros, you can drive a brand new car every few years, which is kind of cool. Leasing generally has lower monthly payments than buying. When you lease, the warranty covers most repairs, so you don't have to worry about unexpected costs. You may be able to get into a nicer car than you could afford to buy outright. Now, some cons. At the end of the lease, you do not own anything. You're restricted in how many miles you can drive each year. Going over the limit will cost you. You may have to pay extra fees at the end of the lease if you want to keep the car or if there's damage. Leasing generally means higher insurance payments than if you own the car outright. So there are a few things to think about before leasing a car. Make sure to weigh out these pros and cons and make the decision that is best for you and your needs. Also, make sure to do some research before you sign a lease to make sure you understand all the fees, restrictions, and terms. And be sure to drive safely within the mileage limits to avoid extra charges. Let's talk about pros and cons of buying a car now. Here are a few things to consider when buying a car. First, let's talk about pros. You own the car outright and you can do whatever you want with it. There are no mileage limits, so you can drive as much as you want. You don't have to worry about the extra fees at the end of a lease term. Insurance is generally cheaper when you own the car. Some cons are the initial purchase price is usually higher than leasing. You're responsible for all repairs and maintenance costs. You may have difficulty selling the car later down the road. So remember these few things before buying a car. As we mentioned, buying a used reliable car with cash is an excellent way to go and is what we prefer at the Biesinger residence. So I hope this video was helpful on looking at some of the key differences, similarities between leasing and buying a car, and also examining and diving into some of the pros and cons of each option. Now, the decision ultimately depends on your individual needs and circumstances. If you're someone who likes to have the latest and greatest car every few years, leasing may be the better option for you. But if you want to keep your car long term and don't mind taking on some repair costs, buying may be the way to go. There are a few other things to keep in mind when deciding to buy or lease. For instance, if you plan to drive more than 15,000 miles per year, Buying may be a better option since most leases have those mileage limits. Also keep in mind if you like customizing your car, buying may be a better option since you may make modifications and not worry about violating the terms of your lease. Another thing to consider is your credit score. If you have good credit, you're more likely to get a lower interest rate when financing a car purchase. If you have bad credit, you may not be able to qualify for an auto loan at all. In that case, leasing may be your better option. At the end of the day, it all comes down to personal factors and requirements. There are many benefits to buying a car and owning a vehicle of your own, but it's important to remember the opportunity costs or loan obligations of the purchase. Leasing a car may be a cheaper option in the short term, but it's important to be aware of the mileage limits and other restrictions. So do your research and make the best decision for you. If you found today's video helpful, please like, share a comment on your experience with either buying or leasing, and make sure to subscribe to our family's FIRE journey for more financial freedom content. Thank you and peace out.